All right, so I'm just going to use the same slideshow that you guys had before. So it's easy to access. I just traded out a few of the slides that will have a lot of resources for you to use moving forward as you continue to use Cryocloud. So as I mentioned before, Cryocloud's around for another 2.5 years, hopefully, or maybe a little bit less. So you can continue to use Cryocloud the same way that you have to continue collaborating with your group, do whatever research you want to. It's for your work, for access. And so you will be able to use all the Cryocloud resources that we have. And I'll scroll down all the way to the bottom here and talk a little bit more about transitioning to the Cryocloud resources instead of the Hackweek one. So one thing that you'll have going forward potentially are issues that you need to troubleshoot. We have a large community that we're growing on our Slack channel over our GitHub that you can access. So after the end of this week or in the next few days, hopefully we'll get you onto our Slack channel, or you can join it from our Jupyter book. And on our Slack channel, the hub user questions will be a great place to ask any questions that you have about Cryocloud. There's lots of different channels on there as well. So you'll be able to get pointed in the right direction if GitHub is a better place or something else. So you can also report issues on GitHub. If you need a new package in the in Cryocloud in the environment, you can request it there if there's any bugs that you find. Also, for general hub questions and troubleshooting, you can go to the Pangeo GitHub discussions page. And so there's an IcePix related category, and we'll have a Cryocloud one as well. And that will access a much larger cloud computing community. And you can always email us at Minds and oops, that wasn't what I meant to do. Yeah, you can reach out to us, the Cryocloud team, to get any more resources and use our Jupyter book. So our Jupyter book has a ton of tutorials. It's got all of these resources in it. Yeah, access us there. Again, if you end up publishing anything that you've done while you've been working on Cryocloud, we'd love for you to cite us. That's how we get a lot of credit for what we're doing here. So this is also on our Jupyter book, but this is how you cite us. And any content that you want to add potentially to Cryocloud can be added to our Jupyter book if you have tutorials that you potentially want to share. We also have a Zenodo community, and so you can put slides and publication PDFs and stuff in there too. And so a lot of those links are here on our cheat sheet. Here's our website, the hub. Obviously, you've been working on the Jupyter book, our GitHub organization. If you want to contribute to our Jupyter book, it's at Cryocloud website. Our Slack channel is here at this link, the Pangeo discourse, and our Zenodo community. So that's kind of your quick access if you want. And if you want more training tutorials, that sort of thing, you can access the OpenScapes cookbook. We'll have new advanced tutorials coming out soon. So we have a workshop, a Cryocloud workshop coming for AGU. So it's going to be a full day of tutorials. Tyler Sutterly is going to be there, and some other people. I don't remember who is actually at this Hackweek right now, but there's some people from the Hackweek. Jessica Scheich is also going to be there. Michaela King is going to be there providing this workshop for all of you, and there will be some advanced work like parallel computing and things like that. So definitely come to that if you can, and then participate in other Hackweeks if you want more. So that's all I have. The main change is going to be we're going to add you to our Slack and also our Google group so that we can email you. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks for that. It's great to have this sort of resources available for us after the Hackweek. So how hard can we hit this for our research? For example, the data sets I'm interested in are currently, I think, on only one cloud, that's the NASA Adapt cloud, and they're not available on any other cloud. So how much, for example, how much of my own data could I, for example, upload to the cloud if I want to use it in terms of disk space limitations? And also, should we, I assume we should be mindful in terms of number crunching, etc. Could you give us some guidelines on that? Yeah.
Yeah, so for going forward, you're going to continue to have access to up to 32 gigabytes of memory, of RAM for your server. So that's going to be the small server that you have when you open your hub. That's going to continue to be completely open, and you can use that as much as you want. In terms of file storage, we recommend that you keep it below 10 gigabytes, but if you need to use more, we can either figure out funding sources for you to get an S3 bucket, or yeah, we can talk about having larger data stores. It is pretty costly to store data, so we just need to like talk about that and have a conversation so we know that we need to get more funding for that, or we can request, you know, cloud credits from AWS. There's a way of like getting, you know, fellowships or whatever they're called, grants for AWS credits. So it's just that sort of process. So 10 gigabytes, we're great with. Anything above that, we just need to have a conversation. If you need a larger server as well, we are supposed to be set up to be able to do that, but that would require you bringing your own cloud credits or like getting your own AWS grant to fund that server, just because it gets to be more expensive. So we have a lot of flexibility.
Any other questions?
You might have said this in the first day, and I've just lost track of it, but I was wondering, is there a plan for a kind of graceful migration at the end of 2.5 years or a little less if funding doesn't continue to be available, or kind of what's the end of life plan if this doesn't continue to be supported?
The goal is to have it continue to be supported. If not, hopefully NASA is providing this sort of cloud platform as a service, and it would be just migrating over to that. It's not clear yet, but yeah, we have three years of funding at in total, and we've already been going for about 10 months. So yeah, I think getting your guys' feedback when we provide surveys will help us to show how useful this platform is. Learning more about like collaborative workflows and how people can best work together. Like all the outputs that we have from Cryocloud will help us to sell the fact that we need to continue going. But I don't think we're going to have a problem selling more years. It's just a question of whether it will be directly from NASA or if it will continue to be, you know, kind of under the 2I2C setups that we already have.
Any other questions for Tasha? Tasha, we really appreciate you partnering with us for this Hackweek and bringing the Cryocloud resources to this community. We often have to shut down our hub, you know, a month after an event. So being able to continue working like this is a real gift to us, and we have been, you know, really enjoyed working with you and hope we can stay connected going into the future.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, the IceSat-2 Hackweek a couple years ago is when I first jumped onto the Jupiter Meets the Earth Hub, and we continued collaborating and have this proposal came out of it. some other work has come out of it, and publications. And so it's really nice to be able to use it. And I'm glad that y'all we're able to partner with you guys so that you can continue using this sort of resource.
Sounds great. Thanks. I look forward to seeing you at EGU. Thank you. So we have one more presentation, and I've really been looking forward to this. I want to offer you a little bit of context and introduce Julie Lowndes. Many of you know Julie. Julie has a background in marine ecology. She's at the University of Santa Barbara. And I've gotten to know Julie over the years, and she's really had a lot of influence on the work that I'm doing. I really have a lot of regard for her approach to bringing more kindness into science, creating more opportunities for open science and collaboration. She's the leader of the OpenScapes program, and this is a program to scale up sort of leadership and mentoring training for all of us who are doing this work, including those of us in leadership roles, to help us develop the skills that we need to be part of this open science community building. Both Naomi and I have been part of some of those trainings, including partnering with a professional coach over a span of several weeks to kind of work on our development in this space. And it's been a really rich program for us. So Julie has kindly offered to spend a half hour with us. And one of the reasons we'd like to connect with Julie at a Hack Week is Julie and others in her team are looking at, they're doing some work specifically with NASA communities. And we see some real interesting synergies between their approach, which is a little bit more of a mentor training model where it's spread out over a longer period of time. In a way, what are the ways in which we might combine participation in a Hack Week, which is, as you've experienced, a little more intensive, focused work over a shorter amount of time? How might we take that work and then extend it into continued collaboration in a longer, less intensive model, kind of like what Julie's develops? We're inviting Julie in to hear more about that and maybe explore ways that we can start to build connections more formally between these various programs. Let's see, is Julie online? All right, welcome, Julie. Can you hear us?
I can, yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Thanks so much for being with us today.
And
Absolutely.
quickly, Julie, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. Would you like me to share the slides in advance or after your presentation?
I'm happy. I've got them in chat right now. I just shared them in chat if folks have
great,
that, or if you want to share them. Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here virtually with you. I've been so excited to see how your week has been going and excited to chat with you about your work in progress here. I will share my screen with the slides that I just put in chat. And thank you, Anthony, for the introduction and for the invitation to spend time with this group. So I'm Julie Lowndes. I lead OpenScapes and lead the NASA OpenScapes project with Aaron Robinson. And I know that several of the OpenScapes folks are with you. I can see Luis Lopez in my view right now. So it's neat that you've all been able to get to know some of the folks that we've been working with. So what I wanted to talk about today is just give a hint about open communities and continued learning with NASA OpenScapes and share about this a bit in the earth and environmental science space, and also share a little bit about our broader work, and so we can think about ways to get involved. But really at OpenScapes, we really believe that open science can accelerate data-driven solutions and increase diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in research and beyond. We really think about how to support teams and really focus on the research needs that you have in your daily work. So we're really, we know that there's, we know that this can be hard. We know that there's times where you feel like you don't have the tools and skills in order to tackle the challenges ahead of you, and that can be lonely and demoralizing. And there are other ways to work. We get really excited about open science approaches and practices, not only what's possible with the tools and the technology, but the people that are there to be mentors and teach and help us feel like we're able to be empowered in this space. And something that we really think about a lot with OpenScapes is how this is a community effort. It's about different roles, different people, different skills, and people coming together for a common shared vision, which I think for a lot of us in this field are climate solutions, social solutions. How do we bring our values and collaborative approaches to these science problems? So we think a lot about open communities, and this is a photo from the Ecological Society of America conference this past week, where Bree Lind was at the NASA Hyperwall presenting about open communities. And this is the definition here is that open communities are groups of people openly creating, sharing, teaching, and collaborating. They're united around a shared interest, whether that's a coding language or a topic or a discipline. And there's a culture of shared and continued learning, and where you prioritize diversity, equity, and belonging, and you can connect online and or in person and operate however sort of synchronously or asynchronously. So I think the idea here is, we've all in this NASA OpenScapes community, we've felt this kind of power of open communities and welcome and are interested in extending that and growing that community and growing the communities that we've felt welcome in. So the NASA OpenScapes project, more specifically, is a 3-year project that will hopefully be longer than that, where we're supporting open NASA Earth science in the cloud. And so what we've done is create a mentor community across the NASA Earth Science data centers. And this is from across maybe 12 data centers across the United States that are actively archiving NASA Earth Science data that so many of us use. And so what this mentor community does is all of them support researchers as they migrate their analytical workflows to the cloud. And as you're all aware, I know NASA Earth data is migrating to the cloud. So there's a lot of opportunity for common practices and approaches, not only for the technology of how to do this, but also for teaching and creating learning resources. So this is just an incredible group across these data centers who are co-creating common tutorials, reviewing and reusing the resources they create for one teaching event to another, iterating and learning as we go, and also creating a community of practice for teaching and mentoring and facilitation. So we have common approaches that are centered on empathy, thinking about how learners learn, thinking about how in-person and online teaching approaches have different strengths and opportunities for synchronous and asynchronous, like I was talking about. And I love this quote from Cassie Nichols, who's one of the mentors at the Physical Oceanography DAC. She says, "Anyone I interact with, I want to help feel hope. I want to help feel hopeful, valued, and seen. I want to help people spiral up hope." I think that's just so awesome, like as a sentiment and a guiding value of how we want to support research in the cloud. So these are some of the things that the mentors community have been working on. What's been really cool is that in teaching researchers through different events throughout the years, we've been able to identify and respond to user needs, researcher needs in pretty I'd say pretty rapidly. So they've now led 15 or more workshops and given talks, reusing and extending the same common resources that they've been creating across those data centers. So we have 2I2C Jupyter Hub, where our community is not only developing tutorials and resources, but also leading events and teaching. And something that's been so neat, and I know Luis Lopez is there, he's been leading efforts to have this 2I2C hub not only work with Python, but also R and MATLAB. And Julia is on the horizon, trying to think about what people are using and what could be used in the hub here. He's also developed the Corn base image that is built on the Pangeo stack and enables a lot of that operational work in the hub, so that someone like me can open up the hub and have everything I need at my fingertips. The mentors have also created this amazing cookbook resource, the Earth Data Cloud cookbook, which I think you've talked about a little bit this week, where there's current tutorials and how-to guides, and also ideas for how to onboard and contribute to this resource. The Earth Access Python library was another effort led by Luis Lopez to reduce the time to access NASA Earth data and streamline some of the authentication and access issues that it provides a much friendlier approach as you first come into the cloud, which I think is so exciting. PODAC, the Physical Oceanography Data Center, has led efforts on the cheat sheets and guides to provide a conceptual map of how we work with data in the cloud. And there's also been a big effort on sharing advice and through this white paper where and many other talks where the group is building on their experience of how Jupyter hubs have helped increase access and availability of doing your research in the cloud. And so they've also been writing and giving talks and sort of advocating for what researchers need, which is really exciting. So this whole NASA OpenScapes effort, I think this is a really great visual from one of their posters at AGU last year, where from the top and then spiraling down, it starts with this small mentor community where we meet twice monthly as we can as part of their paid jobs. And then from there, what they learn, they're able to take back to their data centers and support other of their colleagues at NASA. And from there, more folks are able to support researchers, which on the slide are called end users, and really understand what researchers need and how to address them. And then in that sort of bottom piece, we're thinking about the open science community and not only how to leverage and join existing efforts in the open science world, but also contribute back through these cheat sheets and libraries and resources. So it's this exciting, really exciting movement building that has started with this mentor community and is led by this mentor community at the NASA data centers. Some of the types of teaching events that we lead together are cloud hackathons and workshops. So I mentioned this a little bit before, this is a group coming together and identifying common approaches to teaching and then iterating and reusing those same resources with different audiences and different scopes of events. And through that, we've also been doing notebook review, teaching dry runs, developing shared facilitation and teaching practices, including through Carpentry's instructor training. And this is an example where in 2021, we led our first event together through this cloud hackathon and had 65 folks online using the Jupyter Hub and following along with the material via GitHub. And some of the cool stuff is that this might gonna be a video that's gonna play. I'm hopeful. This is some of the outcomes that researchers hacked on during that 5-day hackathon. So it was really neat to see kind of the beginnings of what this could look like in this short period. And I think you're all in a similar moment now at the end of your hack week. So sharing those stories and seeing kind of what we can do together in those hackathon type of settings. Another type of learning event that we lead are champions cohorts. And this is a slide adapted from Eli Holmes from NOAA Fisheries, who I know has also been part of your Hack Week this week. These are these are a different style of learning. So instead of a 5-day intensive workshop, these are spread across 2 months or more, and folks join remotely for an hour and a half in alternating weeks. And this is really team-based. So you come with your team, and it's about bringing your own work to this cohort and learning and discussing new approaches through open science that can immediately apply to your work. Really an exciting program, this really flagship program of OpenScapes, and we've been leading cohorts since 2019 through this approach and working with a lot of different groups. And with the NASA Earth Science Mentors, we've now led 2 cohorts. We've just wrapped up our first cohort, or sorry, our second cohort this spring. And something that's been really great there is to focus on cloud and NASA Earth data, and really understanding when to cloud and what that kind of undifferentiated heavy lifting is like. You know, what are these pain points that are cross-cutting no matter what your science is. And Earth access is an example of seeing that kind of cross-cutting issue and then being able to offer solutions for it. So it's been neat to work with these champions teams and see what their research needs are and help address them. Working with getting MATLAB in our Jupyter Hub is another example that's come from working closely with these champions. This is one slide from one of the champions teams that just wrapped up this spring, talking about over those 2 months, kind of what their vision was for where they needed to go going forward. So they were able to assess where they are now and kind of see some challenges across their team within their academic lab, that they didn't have common shared tools and were doing scientific analysis in several different ways. And then they were able to identify where they want to be, thinking about cloud-centric, well-documented, and communicated examples of how they work. And then they have some immediate plans around what they're doing. And so creating a GitHub organization for their lab group was something they did during the cohort. And they're going to be experimenting more with communication and bringing some of their models to the hub. So stepping back from it, the way we kind of work with OpenScapes as an approach is we think of this as our flywheel, where we're really interested in. I'm going to start in the top left and kind of go around clockwise here. We really focus on engaging a future us mindset, and that's really thinking about you as part of a bigger effort around science, open science, climate, however you think about future us, but really getting away from the mindset that you're alone and only working on your laptop. So we do this through welcoming and creating space and place, both in terms of events and co-working, but also tech like the Jupyter Hub and Google Drive. Then we empower a learning culture through investing in learning and trust as we co-create things together and work openly. And then really amplifying open leaders and really leveraging common approaches that exist already or that we contribute to, and focusing on inspiring other folks. So communication, blogging, talks, these are all things that we prioritize and amplify as we can. And really something that's been so neat is to see how many folks that we work with are like leveling up in their careers, pretty quickly, and really bringing these practices and leadership approaches with them. So an example of that is using Google Docs as a shared way for remote meetings, so that folks can contribute in other ways that aren't verbal, since unmuting during the Zoom meeting can be awkward or whatnot, or there's just not enough time. So having a running Google Doc during a meeting not only helps people engage more during the meeting, but also if you miss a meeting, you're able to catch up, or if you lose internet or whatnot. So it's kind of an approach that we do together in our own meetings, and then to see folks level up into leadership meetings and take that kind of practice with them and feel braver speaking up in meetings and saying what they've seen or learned in other places, I think is like a really exciting few examples in open science and open communities. I also wanted to share about other efforts that we're involved with OpenScapes. The Pathways to Open Science program is an event series for Black environmental and marine researchers that's led by Ileana Fenwick of our team and in collaboration with Black women in ecology, evolution, and marine science, and Black in marine science. And this is an event series that brought together over 80 Black scientists in the ecology and environmental science space to learn about open science and to build community. And we'll be leading this again in February that we're really, really excited about. And also NOAA Fisheries is an enormous leader in the open science space thanks to Eli Holmes, who has been a leader in this space in a long time and has been coordinating efforts across NOAA Fisheries through OpenScapes and other approaches. So this is a really exciting, there's a lot to say that I don't have time to get into. But this is a really exciting effort that's not only in kind of the policy level, data policy and open science policy at a government level, but also the implementation of how this looks in daily work. Some upcoming events that we have, and would love to see you and to stay connected. We'll be at AGU and leading several of the learning workshops on Sunday. This is just 2 of the learning workshops that the NASA data center, the NASA Earth Data mentors will be leading. But the signups will be coming soon if you're going to AGU. Like I mentioned, we'll also have the Pathways to Open Science program in February, March. We'll have a champions cohort for research teams, about 7 research teams if you're interested in spring 2024. And like Anthony said, we're looking for other ways to collaborate with Hackweek participants and to figure out what you need and to design around that. So we're really interested in discussing this with you. One other thing is open resources. You know, I mentioned open science, open resources. We have everything that we do, teaching resources, talks, blogs, and more, including our facilitation approaches, are all linked from openscapes.org. And so there's a lot you can get involved with there without having to wait for events. So I will just leave things there, but just want to thank all of you and thank the whole OpenScapes community and mentors. There's so many people involved that I learn from every day. So it's really exciting to be able to represent our work. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Julie. Does anyone have any questions for Julie that we can share among the group?
What's been something hard for all of you this week that what I just talked about might have sparked something in you?
Yeah, maybe like a quick question. If you get inspired by this work right now and say, hey, I want to be a mentor, or I want to get part of OpenScape, or I want to get involved, what be like I'd say an easy entry level or maybe the long haul to get started there?
That's a great question. We are trying to figure that out in a better way. Right now, the sort of asynchronous connections via GitHub are a good way to get involved. We want to open up our Slack and figure out how more folks can join beyond the mentors and champions that are currently in our Slack. And we also will have a community call this fall, which is a great way to join. And that's not scheduled yet, but that will be upcoming as well. Yeah.
Hey, Julie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering, and we've talked about this, I think, a little bit, but given that the mentors are getting sort of exposed to probably more and more use cases, are those use cases going to sort of inform the data products and data services that are being produced at the DAX as well? And how is that going to work?
I'd say yes. I don't have all the details of how this will shape up, but there's definitely interest in Jupyter Hub across the NASA data centers so that folks can explore and feel what it's like to work in the cloud. I think, I mentioned Earth Access and the cheat sheets. I think those are really good examples too of responding to researcher needs and seeing, I think, Earth Access does in 2 lines of Python code what used to take maybe 30 lines of Bash code. And I think that's a pretty good example, but I think there's also work going on with file formats, the HDF5 file formats and beyond, but I'm kind of at the edge of my specifics. And that Luis and others can follow up too.
Sure. If I understand the question, is more like, because OpenScapes has more, contact with the end users, would that feedback go up to like the DAX, and so the DAX can actually implement? I don't know about that. Yeah, it's a really great question because each of the DAX have their own user working group, but I have the feeling that it doesn't capture the whole, ecosystem or the whole user base. And OpenScapes is a different avenue for that. And it will be really cool, actually. That's a great thing that we should advocate more to, like, say, well, we discovered that scientists really like this thing, and the DAX should, start working on that. I think that's a great thing. And like Julie said, before CryoHub was a thing, the OpenScapes Hub was kind of like the inspiration for this playground that NASA is starting, and hopefully this year we'll have something similar to CryoHub and the OpenScapes Hub, but it'll come from NASA. So that was a upstream kind of.
I liked Julie's question. What's a challenge from this week that maybe some of what Julie described might be able to support us in going forward?
Like this Hackweek was kind of like Python oriented, and maybe some scientists feel more comfortable with other programming languages. So I think that's one of the things that OpenScapes kind of put up front. Like, we are not going to impose whatever you want to work with, because open science should be kind of like, doesn't matter the programming language. And it'll be a cool thing to kind of expand, like, although I don't know, maybe everybody here likes Python, but I like Python.
Thanks for that. That's something we've wrestled with over the years, and I think we've kind of settled into that mode, but it's such a great reminder to reconsider that.
Maybe another challenge could also be navigating the landscape. So for instance, right now we work on CryoHub, and I heard the question about the long-term vision of that. Now you mentioned like a hub from the OpenScapes, and then ASF has their hub for the the SAR Sentinel. So it feels like as a new entry point, it's like, where do I belong in all of these, for instance, 3 environments, or what is the kind of vision, and where to start there as well, right? So kind of navigating as a new user, where to start.
Yeah, like a roadmap through all that. Thanks.
I guess for us, with the collaboration side, kind of working as a team and trying to figure out the workflow. I think Romina and I are the more visual people, so to do like a visual workflow can sometimes kind of be tricky, especially if you're working on Zoom or something like that, to be able to try to have something to visualize things, brainstorm. Probably something where you can draw this out virtually and have people that can also draw at the same time and add stuff.
Yeah, so having multiple modalities written and,
Yeah.
visual, yeah.
Yeah, and we've worked with a lot of teams that are visual and using tools. There's things like Miro and Mural that let you sort of draw workflow affected in Google. It's drawings too, and those are things or PowerPoint things that you can block things out. That's a great to visualize your workflow. Something that actually Eli Holmes' team has done is visually make the arrows red where it feels clunky or people are feeling stuck arrows, and then figuring out how to turn those arrows green as start using shared practices.